Don't move, you hear me? Don't you move a muscle. Hands where I can see them, right now.
Please, I didn't do anything.
You think I care? Do it.
Okay, just don't.
Don't kill me. I haven't done anything. You will have to pay the price for this. The gun was inches from her chest, the captain's hand steady though his eyes betrayed confusion. Cameras flashed. Neighbors froze. For a woman who built an empire from nothing, this was the moment power failed her. Titles and uniforms blurred into a question: who protects the one they claim to serve? This is the story of a cop aiming at his billionaire wife, a single act that upended everything. Watch as alliances fracture and a secret unravels tonight, right now. Welcome, story lovers. Where are you watching from? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. Before the world knew her name, before headlines turned her life into a symbol of something far bigger, Amara lived with a kind of calm she had spent years building for herself. She was a self-made billionaire, but not the loud kind. Her success came from quiet perseverance, long nights, and a heart that never forgot where she started. Despite her wealth, she kept her routine simple. Morning runs through the quiet neighborhood. Evenings spent reviewing plans for her foundation, focused on uplifting Black entrepreneurs. She carried herself with a mix of grace and strength, the kind that could only be earned by enduring and overcoming. Her marriage to Daniel, a respected police captain, had always been viewed by outsiders as unusual, two worlds rarely seen together. But to Amara, it was once proof that the lines dividing society weren't as permanent as they seemed. Daniel admired her brilliance, her discipline, her values, or at least that's what she believed for most of their years together. In public, they looked like a couple untouched by tension. A polished home, steady careers, and a love story many envied. But beneath the surface, there were cracks, small, almost invisible moments that hinted at a shift. Subtle comments about her community that stung more than she expected. A change in his tone when she challenged unfair policies. A distance in his eyes she couldn't explain. Nothing obvious enough to name, but impossible to ignore. Still, life remained steady on the outside. She attended charity galas. He managed high-profile cases. And when they appeared together, people whispered about their power. Not their problems, but on one otherwise ordinary afternoon, something would happen. Something so sudden, so unthinkable, that it would shatter the illusion forever. A moment when titles, status, and love stopped protecting her. A moment that would expose a more profound truth she never imagined she'd have to face. What Amara didn't know was that the storm was already moving toward her, quiet, slow, and unstoppable. The day the shift began wasn't marked by anything unusual, at least not at first. Amara had spent the morning reviewing proposals for her foundation's next round of grants, her mind focused on creating opportunities for young Black innovators. It was work that fueled her, work that reminded her of every barrier she once faced. But as she wrapped up, she noticed a series of missed calls from Daniel. No messages. No explanations, just silence layered over insistence. She brushed it off at first. His job often pulled him into unpredictable situations. Yet something about the timing unsettled her. She tried calling back, but it rang unanswered. Later that afternoon, Amara stepped outside to clear her mind. The sun hung low, warming the quiet neighborhood where large homes sat behind manicured hedges. It was peaceful, almost too calm. As she walked down the driveway, she noticed a patrol car idling a few houses away. The engine hummed. The windows were tinted. It didn't move. She paused. Police cars were standard where Daniel worked, but not here. Not parked. Not watching. She tried to dismiss the unease. But the moment she turned toward her front gate, the patrol car crept forward. Slow. Deliberate. Something tightened in her chest. A worry she didn't want to name. Her phone buzzed. A message from her assistant asking if she was still attending the evening's event. She typed a reply, but before she could hit send, a voice cut through the air. "Ma'am, stop right there." Her body stiffened. The tone wasn't questioning. It was commanding. She turned slowly, confusion rising. The man stepping out of the patrol car wore a uniform. His hand hovered too close to his holster, his eyes fixed on her with a suspicion she'd felt before in other places, but never in her own neighborhood, never in front of her own home. "Is there a problem?" she asked, keeping her voice steady even as her heartbeat quickened. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he scanned her from head to toe, as though her presence itself required justification. "We received a report," he said finally. "Suspicious activity in the area." Suspicious. Here. With her standing in the driveway of the house she owned, she felt the sting of a familiar truth, the one she had spent years trying to outgrow. Wealth, success, status, none of them erased the lens through which some people saw her. "I live here," she said quietly. But his expression didn't soften. If anything, it hardened. Before she could say another word, another patrol car turned the corner. Then another. 3 in total, all stopping in front of her home, engines rumbling, doors opening. Amara instinctively stepped back, her breath catching. This wasn't routine. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was something else, something orchestrated, something meant to escalate. And then she saw him, Daniel, stepping out of the second car. Not with concern. Not with an explanation, but with a coldness she had never seen on his face. Not even in the worst of their arguments. Her heart sank. Something was very, very wrong, and the officers around him weren't here by accident. Something inside her whispered, "This moment will change everything." Daniel's eyes locked onto hers. Cold, unreadable, carrying none of the warmth she once trusted. The officers formed a semicircle around her, hands resting near their holsters, their stance rigid, aggressive. She wasn't a threat. She wasn't resisting. She was simply standing in her own driveway. Yet the air crackled with the kind of tension she had only ever seen happen to others, never imagining she would one day be the center of it. Then Daniel stepped forward. No explanation. No reassurance. Instead, he placed his hand on his gun. Amara's breath shattered. For a moment, the world shrank to the sight of his fingers curling around the weapon he had promised he would never misuse. She raised her hands instinctively, palms trembling, not from guilt but from disbelief. This wasn't a stranger. This wasn't an officer responding to danger. This was her husband, the man who shared her home. Her dreams, her life. "Don't move," he ordered, voice clipped and unfamiliar. Her heart pounded against her ribs, each beat screaming the same question. Why? She tried to speak, wanted to remind him who she was, who they were, but he didn't flinch. His expression held something chilling, something that made her realize she was no longer looking at the partner she once trusted, but at a man hiding something far darker. The officers watched her as if she were an intruder, like her existence was the threat, and in that moment, with a gun pointed at her chest, Amara understood. Whatever truth Daniel was protecting, it was worth more to him than her life. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. The standoff broke only when a neighbor, drawn by the flashing patrol lights, stepped outside, phone raised. More neighbors followed. Cameras appeared. Whispers spread. And in that growing circle of witnesses, Daniel hesitated, just long enough for another officer, one with clearer judgment, to step between them and lower his captain's arm. Amara's knees weakened as the gun finally pointed away from her. Not because she feared the officers now dispersing, but because she had seen the truth in Daniel's eyes before it vanished behind protocol and orders. Something had pushed him over a line that could never be uncrossed. In the hours that followed, Amara gave her statement, surrounded by the very system her husband once commanded. Internal Affairs launched an urgent inquiry. The footage captured by neighbors spread across social platforms within minutes, reaching millions by nightfall. A nation watched, some in anger, some in fear, many in painful recognition. Daniel was suspended within 24 hours. His reputation unraveled even faster. The man who once wielded authority now faced the weight of his own actions. And Amara? She did not return to silence or retreat. She stepped forward, publicly, powerfully, sharing her story not as a billionaire or a wife, But as a black woman who had nearly become another headline, her voice ignited conversations she wished didn't have to exist. Conversations about trust, power, bias, and the dangerous idea that success can shield someone from prejudice. It couldn't. Her story proved it. How many more lives must brush against tragedy before change becomes more than a promise? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more powerful stories and new videos.